The Acolyte is a series Disney put a lot of faith and money into. They truly thought this female-centric Star Wars series was going to be a massive hit, and so far it is a disaster for them. And now we finally have episode 3, which was being called the most controversial piece of Star Wars content ever created. People are absolutely annihilating it on social media, and the Access media is not blaming directors or producers or writers for the failure of the Acolyte so far, but fans for not liking the agendas they're pushing. I have a few things to show off, but if you enjoy the content I create, follow me on social media, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. So, let's start off with this article. Access Media blames fans for ruining Star Wars, not the people at Lucasfilm. This is absolutely hilariously pathetic. It is not our fault that they cannot hire competent writers or producers. They are hiring people simply for checkboxes, and it's not working for them. They are putting hundreds of millions of dollars into products like The Acolyte, like Echo, like Obi-Wan, that are not making them money. They are not seeing a return. And if they went back 15 years before Disney bought Star Wars, and you looked at the state of Star Wars, it was significantly better. While yes, there were people who were still criticizing the products that were coming out, look at something like the prequels, people still prefer the prequels over really anything they've put out. And while Disney has made a handful of decent products, we're still not talking the level that they should be, right? Star Wars content should be hit after hit, and it's just not. We've gotten 1 or 2 good video games. We had The Mandalorian, which of course they ruined by firing Gina. It just seems like that every time they are close to having a win, they drop the ball. It's like they don't want to succeed. But now we have the media saying the Acolyte isn't ruining Star Wars. You are. Saying one of the best additions to the galaxy far away in a long time, embracing decades of nostalgia while also thinking critically on the franchise's legacy. It also might be the most diverse Star Wars story yet, and while that's definitely a boon for marginalized fans, it's made the Acolyte the target of a vocal splinter of the fandom. You cannot constantly market your products as, oh, the most diverse, the most inclusive. That does not bring viewers in. We have seen it time and time again with movies, TV shows, video games. That cannot be the only piece of marketing you have for a product. We want to see elements of the story, really good acting in the trailers, action sequences. You have to reel us in, and they just don't understand that using the word diversity isn't special. This whole Inverse article is another lunatic journo blaming fans for Hollywood writers being trash at their jobs. They're totally gaslighting us. They say that we've review bombed diverse swings like Eternals, The Rings of Power, and now we have our sights set on Acolyte. We just don't like bad content. That's all that it is. At the end of the day, they even say that we're a small group of people. It's not a small group or a splinter when it's millions and millions of individuals going on Rotten Tomatoes and leaving negative reviews, going to social media and voicing how unhappy they are. Clearly, there is something going on with Hollywood, but no, instead of course, blaming the writers or producers or Disney, never the people abusing a franchise and actively ruining it, they're always blaming the fans. They will say anything, no matter how ridiculous, to push their own narratives and, of course, protect a company like this. They keep calling it a vocal minority, but these scores wouldn't tank over and over if it was only a small group of people who felt this way. It's clearly a large portion of the fan base, and they just need to suck it up and deal with it, and they actually need to learn that if they want to become relevant. They even go on to demand that the review bombing and all of the hatred stops. And if they want to talk about something that's gotta stop, running defense for narrative-driven, bad storytelling needs to stop. They have got it ass backwards. They are trying to run smokescreens for audience scores being so low. And I'll tell you what has to change. They've got to fire everyone involved right now. start over and actually make something good. Star Wars is a name that, yes, people see and get excited for. There are so many individuals who would give Star Wars another chance. They need to drop the tokenism and the Force's female BS. They need to drop the focus on representing everyone under the sun and simply make good stories. The reason why articles like this are getting written is because these shows are affecting Disney's bottom line. Disney is losing money, and clearly what the critics say doesn't matter because look at their scores versus audience scores. Critics are obsolete, and it does not matter what they say anymore. And now we actually have tons of people continuing, of course, to turn on Star Wars, but highlighting just how bad the recent episode is. Hilariously enough, Eric Kane over at Forbes even wrote an article titled one of the most disappointing episodes ever made. Eric Kane is definitely someone I follow on social media, one of the very few decent journos that actually exist, and they highlight how this show is a nightmare, and episode 3 ruins everything that you know about Star Wars and really what made Star Wars special in the first place. This right here proves that the people at Disney and on this project have absolutely no idea what Star Wars really is, and they just don't care. The Acolyte, episode 3, introduces lesbian space witches that use the Force to get pregnant. Never in the history of Star Wars has there been anything like this, and we're not even talking about something that feels like Star Wars. It feels like a really poorly written fan fiction, but lesbian space witches. We're not even sitting here talking about the Night Sisters or the Dathomiri shamans. We're just talking about space witches. Like, how is this acceptable? This is absolutely an insult to Star Wars fans, to George Lucas, to anyone who has ever touched any Star Wars product. It is such an insult. Not okay. I mean, Star Wars now is just an uncool feminist mouthpiece. It is absurd. And people initially didn't believe this, but boy, is it true. There are lines of dialogue like this in the show. The galaxy is not a place that welcomes women like us. There have been so many cool, powerful women within Star Wars. We have, of course, the one and only Princess Leia, Padme Amidala, Mission Veo, Juhani, Satele Shan, Bastila Shan, Mara Jade. We have so many amazing female characters within Star Wars, and never have I heard something like the galaxy is not a place that welcomes women, except for in a show made by Leslie Headland, who of course was only hired because she was Harvey Weinstein's personal assistant, who probably has dirt on him, and Kathleen Kennedy and all of the rest of them, and because she wants to push the narrative that Kathleen Kennedy wants to push, that the Force is female. And now we are actually seeing them do that after years of claiming they were going to. They have put very cringe-worthy scenes into the Acolyte, and they've made it virtually unwatchable. They're talking about how there's lesbian conception now. I carried these babies. I created these babies. Of course, Anakin is no longer special because the Force can be whatever you want, and it really doesn't have any set rules anymore. Like, if you imagine something can happen, I guess it can happen. It is just not what people want out of Star Wars, and these individuals behind these projects are just continuing to dance on the grave of a franchise people have previously loved. It's honestly sad to say this, but I don't think Star Wars can be redeemed at this point. I'm someone who's tried to give them multiple chances. I love Jedi Fallen Order. I like Jedi Survivor. I love Knights of the Old Republic. So many of the EU books are absolutely fantastic. It makes me so sad to see Star Wars be in such a terrible state, but at this point, I don't see things changing for the better anytime soon. So, of course, as the episodes continue to release for the Acolyte, it will be interesting to see how fans respond, and How the rest of the series ends up playing out, only time will tell, but for now, that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.